It saddens and it frustrates me to be doing this research as an appeal for help. But I was brutally tortured and put through, and still being put through, a cruel and illegal form of witch hunt trial by murderers who forced a nerve agent on me as a little boy without informed consent that they characterized as hot peppers. They have tortured me. I have Parkinson's. I'm deaf. They have humiliated me. I was homeless for 2 years. They tortured me by raping my only friend, murdering people who crossed paths with me that were helpful, and in some ways, worst of all, pulling pranks of political nature, war gamings for a media fight club agenda that they call casino alchemy, meaning it doesn't matter if due process was due or it was a complete bystander. It satisfies some cruel mindset. Well, it goes back to the fact that I distrusted Reagan when I was at Pitt News. And I found the Texas school book had been planted on me by Israelis. Don't get the idea that these people care about the Texas school book. They're promoting the Texas school book, even though they even went on to kill Circe Kennedy, even though it's about the murder of JFK. So I was going through Reagan-era cinema, and I found a number of things that were very disquieting to me, such as that they had pro-Axis symbolism in them. This was made by the man who created the burning cross for the KKK. The D.W. Griffith, I believe his name is David Wark Griffith, W-A-R-K, was the early epic cinema maker who was influenced by the man who influenced Mussolini, a friend of Mussolini's named D'Annunzio, who was in Fayoum, a hotbed of counterfeiting after World War I. And his acolyte, Freddie Luigi, introduced the first American epic cinema maker to Mussolini. So from this counterfeiting scene, the emergence of tyrants, of the great dictators. The great dictators emerged simultaneously in the same crowd, among the same fans and influence. They created the burning cross for the KKK to create the birth of a nation, which was the epic filmmaking of the studio systems in Hollywood. Came out during World War II. You don't see it when you look at the movie. It goes by too fast. It says, because it says rather us, I was concerned. The U.S. is over the swastika. So I looked at it closely, frame by frame analysis, and discovered that Reagan is sitting next to a bust of Hitler with the U.S. over the swastika. And there's Errol Flynn next to him, who lived in Laurel Canyon, with Houdini, who was around when D'Annunzio was introducing Griffith to Mussolini, Houdini era of American politics. So there's three actually semiotic patterns in that. From the index, they call it indexology, rather us, which is like Lazarus back from the dead, Casper, which is what Reagan called his Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War, and Houdini, all of which means that they were planning one of the four elements that I've discovered. And Japanese films, Italian films, German films, American films, French films like Diva have encrypted the Texas school book. Which, when the first element, there's 4 elements I found. The first element is the escape of Adolf Hitler. And while they did that, of course, they were questioning the character of their victim, the character of their victims to come. The image I showed you of the film Dangerous Journey, I think it's called, which was also has a comment where Reagan looks into Goring's train. He says, Goring's train, that's almost good enough for me. Since Goring was the number 2 man in Nazi Germany, that would imply that only Hitler is good enough for Reagan. Now I have copious examples of the 4. It's taken years of work and study to understand what they did. But in my folders, I have copious evidence of the 4 elements. The escape of Adolf Hitler was one of the elements. It's a semiotic super story that's in the background of these movies, a sweeping turbulence engulfing American entertainment as a hybrid between reality and actual treachery. The second theme is the game Two Virgins Pussy Ball, or we'll call it Moral Ball, which was clocked to the AIDS attack and is encrypted particularly in Japanese cinema because in real hybrid warfare, I was engulfed in it when Midori Goto attacked me in a World War II revenge attack with the help of Israelis in the city of Pittsburgh who wrote the Texas school book. I'll show you one such example so you understand what sort of semiotic literature this is. This is from the actual Texas school book. The actual Texas school book coincides with the semiotics within the filmography. And I've done my level best to print the captions as well as the imagery so you can see what sort of text occurs simultaneously with the imagery, the signs and symbols that are often not even part of the film itself. They're just told in the background of the film. The third semiotic literature theme is the theme that JFK was killed in revenge for Hiroshima. This is where they overdo it. It's very obvious what was going on. And I find it strange that Kennedy assassination researchers have overlooked willfully, I would think, that Oswald's ID was dated for the anniversary of Pearl Harbor. There were a lot of such images that are telltale from the semiotic literature, many of them from Ronald Reagan's films. So we see from the literature that there's no question that this happened as I have reported it happened. The third issue, Two Virgins Pussy Ball, engulfed me at the University of Pittsburgh. The fourth proves that far from being killed, John Lennon was in on this. It's Lennon's Houdini. The fourth element of the semiotic super story. shows why Reagan's attorneys for the FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency from Pitt, had me in D.C. the day he claims he was shot, and he came out and waved to me the night before. The master of Hollywood pulled a double fantasy. He pulled a trick of Hollywood, a trick of Pentagon Disney, so that he would have the upper hand seemingly forever. And the Texas School Book was an explanation that all are supposed to give. Here's an example from an Ayn Rand film, which has juxtaposed against a film from the Neva Corporation, whose encrypted name appears in the Texas School Book itself. They're a giant pornography company from Japan. It's a look-alike of the girl who sent me the letters, and it says it would be like starting over. You see, not only was John Lennon involved, but he was part of the imperial masquerade that was being played to sucker us into believing that he was actually the victim when he was the perpetrator. A trick that this plan, going all the way back to the counterfeiters of the great dictators, organized. And Reagan's attorneys gave me a brochure that reads, "There's no such thing as objective reality, only what the jury believes." Gail Burstyn appears on the cover in 1979 of Robert Fripp's God Save the Queen. He was a friend of John Lennon. Why would they be putting the semiotic literature on their covers the year before John Lennon supposedly died and never arrest anybody but the person who was most totally victimized and who Yoko Ono had the greatest motive in attacking, because I was a little boy, which was the name of the atomic bomb, from Bush's ship in the Navy. Bush went along with this, by the way. He knew that my father had been at Teachers College with Eisenhower and in the radio room off the coast of northern Japan. They gave me a brochure that read, "There's no such thing as objective reality, only what the jury believes." That's an advertisement for Pentagon Disney. There's no such thing as objective reality, only what the jury believes. Here's Gail Burstyn again at Seattle Center. Semiotic literature is consistent on 4 points. The escape of Adolf Hitler, the Two Virgins moral ball or pussy ball war game, the Fight Club of whom engulfed me as advocates for Obama at the University of Pittsburgh. The excuse of killing JFK in revenge for Hiroshima. Last but not least, Lennon's Houdini.